So, welcome sa ating online lectures ng physics. So, for today, we'll be discussing freely falling bodies or the motion along the vertical. So, let's define the following terms. Freely falling body is any object moving under the influence of gravity only, regardless of its initial motion. Objects thrown upward or downward and those released from rest are all freely falling once they are released. Any freely falling object experiences an acceleration directed downward, regardless of the direction of its initial motion or the motion at any instant. So, when we talk about freely falling body, we are to neglect the air resistance. So, that's why the motion will only be influenced by gravity. Also, generally speaking, when we talk about freely falling body, it is either objects thrown upward, objects thrown downward, or those released from rest. So we are to categorize them as freely falling body. So no matter the initial motion, whether it is thrown upward, thrown downward, or just dropped from a certain point. So ang tawag doon, laging freely falling body, regardless of the initial motion. And the acceleration of the freely falling body or the freely falling object will always experience a downward acceleration. So always. And that downward acceleration is what we call acceleration due to the gravity or the gravitational acceleration. So gravitational acceleration, or denoted by small letter g, is the magnitude of the acceleration due to gravity. So its value decreases with the increasing altitude. So theoretically, when the object, since the gravitational acceleration is dependent to the distance of the object to the centermost part of the Earth, so as the object moves farther from the centermost part of the Earth, its gravitational acceleration or its force of attraction with the center of the Earth decreases. Okay. However, in our subject, since we will be dealing with scenarios, situations, or objects or systems which happens within the Earth, so we will consider a constant gravitational acceleration. So, hindi natin i-apply yung principle that the value of the gravitational acceleration decreases with the increasing altitude, because we will consider all systems na mangyayari dito sa Earth. Okay? So, unless the system or the situation will happen outside the Earth, so doon natin i-apply itong principle that the value of gravitational acceleration decreases with the increasing altitude. And again, since we'll consider situations being done here in the Earth, we will consider constant gravitational acceleration. And this will be the value of the gravitational acceleration. We have 9.81 meter per second square for MKS system or the metric system. We have 980 centimeter per second square for the Gaussian or the CGS system. And we have the 32 feet per second square for the English system. So every system of units, we have the following values of gravitational acceleration. So let's discuss further. If we neglect air resistance and assume that the free fall acceleration does not vary with altitude over a short vertical distance, then the motion of the freely falling object is equivalent with the motion with constant acceleration. So as I've said, since we'll be considering constant gravitational acceleration, we will arrive with the topic discussed last time. Similar to rectilinear motion or the motion along the horizontal. By this time naman, we will consider motion along the vertical. Okay, of which we have the constant value of the gravitational acceleration previously provided. So, therefore, the kinematic equation developed for objects moving with constant acceleration can be applied. So, yung mga formulas na gagamitin natin dito, the kinematic equations na gagamitin natin is similar with the kinematic equations that we have when we are considering motion along the horizontal. It is common to define up as the positive y direction and to use y as the position variable in the mechanic equation. But the acceleration is downward and has a magnitude of 9.81 meter per second square. Ito ay considering syempre that the system is in metric. And since we are moving along the y direction, meaning to say we are to define up as the positive direction. So, para meron tayong reference. Okay? And to use y as the variable position. So, nung horizontal, we use x. Therefore, in a vertical motion, we will consider the use of y. So, we take a or yung acceleration natin to be negative g, which is equal to negative 9.81 meter per second square, where the minus sign means that the acceleration of a freely falling object is downward. So, as discussed in rectilinear motion or the motion along the horizontal, so we discussed there that when the acceleration is negative, it denotes that the motion is decelerating or it decreases in motion. The acceleration is decreasing. However, since we are considering here the minus sign to be the direction of the object, which is it falls downward. So, we do not need to have a deceleration here because again, we are going to use the constant value of the gravitational acceleration of 9.81. Thus, the negative sign again, this sign denotes that your acceleration due to the gravity, it is not decreasing. Rather, it is directed downward or the motion is downward. So, unlike dun sa motion along the horizontal, again, pag meron tayong negative sign, ibig sabihin, nagde-decelerate yung ating object. Whereas, when we use negative value of gravitational acceleration here, or the acceleration to be negative, it denotes that the motion is downward. So, magkaiba yung representation natin ng signs or ng ating positive or negative pagdating sa motion along the horizontal and the motion along the vertical. Sa horizontal, negative sign means that the motion is decelerating or gradually decreasing in speed. Whereas, pagdating naman sa freely falling object, the negative sign denotes that the motion is directed vertically downward. So, let's continue. So, kinematic equations. So, we have here the kinematic equations that we used for the motion along the horizontal line, where the v is our velocity, v sub o is the initial velocity, and v is our final velocity. A is the acceleration, and t is time, and x is our displacement. So, we are to replace a with negative g, or the acceleration due to the gravity. Again, the negative sign is denotes that the acceleration is or the motion is downward. So, we will replace it with this equation. Whereas, yung x natin, papalitan natin siya ng y. So, this will be replaced by this equation, and the last equation will be like this one. So, this will be the kinematic equation that we will use in freely falling bodies or when we are solving freely falling objects. So, ito yung ating magiging formula. Derived from the kinematic equation ng horizontal motion. Pinalitan lang natin si variable. And we are going to, we should know these principles or representations. So, when we have positive values of the velocity, initial man or final, it denotes that the object is moving upward. And when it is negative, the object is moving downward. So, most of the time, or most likely, yung ating signs here, the positive and negative, will denote the direction. Positive, it moves upward. Negative, it moves downward. Then when we consider y, when y is positive, the object is above the initial point. So we should have the initial point as our reference. And pag nasa positive yung value ni y, it denotes that the second position or the final position is above the initial point. When y is negative, the object is below the initial point. So these concepts should be remembered. Okay? Kasi pag nagkamali tayo ng representation, even the sign here, mali yung ating masosol. So, you should remember the following principles. Again, the signs here denotes that the direction of the motion and the position, whether it is above or below the reference point or the initial point. So, let's apply the following formulas in the following set of examples. Okay, so for example number 1, so let's say a rubber ball is dropped from rest. Find its velocity and position after 1, 2, 3, and 4 seconds. So let's try this problem. Okay, let's try this. So for problem number 1, so a rubber ball is dropped from rest. So draw muna tayo ng position niya. So let's say okay, so let's say a rubber ball is dropped from a certain point. Ano? So let's say this is your rubber ball. Okay, so it is dropped from rest. So the velocity of the rubber ball, yung initial velocity niya, since it is dropped from rest, so its initial velocity is simply 0. So let's use metric system. So we have 0 meter per second. That is your initial velocity, and the motion is drawn downward kasi the rubber ball is dropped. So pababa yung magiging motion natin. So hinahanap sa atin the velocity and position after 1, 2, 3, and 4 seconds. So let's say at this point, and when you drop the rubber ball, so ito yung kanyang final velocity. So hanapin yung ating velocity and position after t is equal to 1, 2, 3, and 4 seconds. So to solve this again, we are to use the most or the best. So we are going to use the best formula. So to find the best formula, so we are going to simply look at the given and the unknowns that we need to find. So doon natin pipiliin kung ano yung formula na gagamitin natin based on these three kinematic equations. So since we have the initial velocity, we have the time, we will always have the gravitational acceleration since that will be constant. So we can use the first equation to find the velocity. Okay, so let's say from equation 1, so velocity natin is equal to V sub O minus GT. Okay, so that is your formula. So substituting, so at time is equal to 1 second. Okay, so time is equal to 1 second. So V is equal to V sub O is 0 minus, so let's use 9.81 here. meter per second square multiplied by 1. So therefore, at t is equal to 1, the velocity is simply negative 9.81 meter per second. So the negative sign again denotes that the motion is downward. So as you can see, dun sa ating figure, since the object is dropped, so initially from a certain point above, so binitawan siya, so most likely, yung kanyang velocity will also be directed downward. So that's why negative yung ating nakuha. So let's find its position. So using the third equation. So y is equal to VOT minus 1 half GT square. So substitute lang natin dyan. So again, at t is equal to 1 second. So y is equal to VO, that is 0. T is 1 minus 1 half. G is 9.81. Then, that is 1 P square. So simplifying, y is equal to negative. So negative 1 half 9.81. So that is negative 4.90 5, okay, meters. So negative. As you can see, negative yung na-solve nating value ng ating y kasi yung position after 1 second, so nasa ibaba. Okay? So nasa baba siya, having this as our initial point, nandiyan yung reference natin. So nasa ilalim. So tatama siya dun sa ating principle a while ago na dinidiscuss natin, that when the motion is downward and the motion is and the object is below the initial point, the value of the computed parameters will be negative. So as you can see, negative yung velocity natin kasi pababa, and negative yung value ni y kasi nasa ilalim yung final position ng ating object. So nasa baba siya ng initial position. So, at t is equal to 2 seconds, so isa-substitute lang natin yan. So, at t is equal to 2 seconds, so direct substitution pa din, v is equal to 0 minus, this is 9.81 times 2. So, velocity natin will be, so let's use the calculator para mas mabilis na tayo. So, let's use our calculator here. Okay, so let's substitute the values. We have 0 minus 9.81 times, we have negative 19.62 meter per second. So again, negative yung value niya kasi directed downward. So at t is equal to 2 seconds. So y natin is equal to 0 times 2 minus 1 half. And this is 9.81. Then this is 2 second being square. So yung y natin again will be negative. Is 0 times 2 minus 9.81 times 1 half. So may 1 half dito. Is 1 half. That is 0 times 2 minus 1 half. So I'll use 0.5 times 9.81 times 2 square. So, okay, so we have it as negative, so 19.62 meters. Okay, so diretso lang. So at t is equal to 3 seconds, so isa-substitute lang ulit, v is equal to 0 minus, that is 9.81 times 3. So yung velocity natin dito will be, that is 0 minus 9.81 times 3 is negative 29.43. Okay, so that is meter per second. So unahin ko lang si t sub 4. So sa t is equal to 4 seconds. So that is v 0 minus 9.81 times 4. So velocity natin is, palitan lang natin to, 4. That is negative 39.24. So dito naman at t is equal to 3. So we have y is equal to 0 times 2 or 0 times 3 times minus 1 half g 9.81 times 3 t square. So ang y natin is, so let's say 0 times 3, so 0 pa din yan, minus 1 half times 9.81 times 3 square equals, so that is negative 44.145 meters. So negative kasi again nasa ilalim pa din siya. So at t is equal to 4, so y natin is equal to 0 times 4 minus 1 half times 9.81 times 4 t square. So y natin will be, palitan lang natin to ng 4 equals, so negative 78.48 meters. Okay, so as simple as that. Let's proceed to the next problem. A ball is thrown vertically upward from the cornice of a tall building, leaving the thrower's hand with a speed of 48 feet per second, and just missing the cornice on the way down. Find the position and the velocity of the ball 1 second and 4 seconds after leaving the thrower's hand. The velocity when the ball is 20 feet above its starting point. The maximum height reached and the time it is reached, taking the origin of the ball at which taking the origin at the elevation at which the ball leaves the thrower's hand. The y-axis vertical and positive upward. So again, let's draw this figure. For problem number 2, so gawa lang ulit tayo ng figure. Okay, so let's say somewhere here. Yan. So a certain point dun sa ating tall building, so a ball is thrown, so that is upward. So a ball is thrown upward. So yung initial velocity natin is 48 feet per second. So actually, so the path of this ball, since this is thrown vertically upward, so the path that it will take, so vertically din. So dito, then dito din siya bababa sa same position na ito. So if this ball is thrown vertically upward, so the ball will go up and will go down at the same point. Okay? Pero para mas madali nating ma-view, medyo ah, ihihiwalay ko yung path kung saan siya bababa. Okay? So again, in real life situation, when you throw the ball vertically upward, it will go down at the same position or it will take the same path. Kung ano yung path na dinaanan niya pataas, the ball will take the same path pababa. Okay? But for the sake of representation, paghihiwalayin ko yung path niya upward and yung path niya downward. Pero again, in real life situation, parehas yan. Okay? So, paghiwalayin lang natin. So, let's say the ball is thrown vertically upward and when it reached this point, goes down. So, let's say, para lang makita. Okay? So, let's say from this point, pababa naman siya. Okay? So, yan yung magiging figure natin. Okay? So, we have this figure. So, first question, find the position and the velocity of the ball 1 second and 4 seconds after leaving the thrower's hand. So, for letter A, pinapahanap sa atin yung position and the velocity. So, position and the velocity. So, at T natin is equal to 1 second and 4 seconds. So, pinapahanap sa atin yan. So, again, kagaya lang nung problem kanina, given the initial velocity, we can find the value of the final velocity using the formula V is equal to V sub O minus GT. So, substitute lang natin at T is equal to 1 second. So, V natin, VO, we have 48 feet per second minus G. Since naka-English tayo, we'll be using 32. So, feet per second square times time natin. So, that is 1. So, velocity natin, 48 minus 32. So, that is 16 feet per second. Okay? So, we have the value of positive. So, ibig sabihin, after 1 second, so, somewhere here pa, nandito pa sa pataas pa yung ating object. Okay? Then, let's find its position. So, yung y natin. So, using the third equation, that is VOT minus 1 half GT square. Okay? So, using this formula, we have y is equal to VO, that is 48. So, 1 second pa din tayo, that is 1 minus 1 half. G natin is 32. Feet per second square times 1 being square. So, yung y natin will be 48 minus 32 over 2 or 48 minus 16. So, 48 minus 16. So, makabila. We have y as 32 feet. So, after 1 second, yung ball natin is positioned 32 feet above the initial point. So, somewhere here, So, 32 feet na agad yung kanyang magiging position. Okay? So, let's find the value of the ball or the position of the ball after 4 seconds. So, let's have, ito na. So, at t is equal to 4 seconds. So, yung velocity natin, again, that is VO minus GT. So, V is equal to VO, that is 48, minus G, which is 32, times 4. So, velocity natin is equal to, so, gamit na tayo ng calcu para mas mabilis. So, we have VO, which is 48, minus GT. So, that is 32 times 4 equals, so we have it as negative 80. So velocity natin is, as you can see, we have negative 80 feet per second. So negative yung value, tawagin natin v sub 4 or the velocity after 4 seconds. Okay, yung isa natin dito is v sub 1 or the velocity after 1 second. So yung v sub 4 natin is negative 80. Ibig sabihin, the motion is now downward. Pababa na yung ating motion. So ibig sabihin, initially, we throw the ball upward. Then, after it reach its yung tinatawag nating maximum height or yung point na pinakamataas niyang maaabot, so it will go downward. So after 4 seconds, so the ball already reached its maximum height and it is now moving downward. So pababa na yung ating motion. Okay, and the velocity after 4 seconds is negative 80 feet per second. So again, negative sign denotes the direction of motion. So which is downward. So, its position, tingnan natin yung magiging position ng ating ball after 4 seconds. So, y is equal to VOT minus 1/2 GT square. So, let's substitute. Y is equal to 48 times 4 minus 1/2 GT square. So, y natin will be, substitute lang natin, that is VOT. So 48 times 4 minus 1/2, 0.5 G, then T square equals, so we have it as negative 64 feet. So as you can see, negative na yung value ng ating y or the y sub 4. After 4 seconds, yung ball natin is now below our initial point. So let's say ito yung ating initial point. Yan. Okay? Yung ball natin is now moving downward. Okay? So it is now moving downward and also the ball is located below the initial point. So nasa ilalim na siya ng cornice. Denoted by the negative sign. Okay, so let's find the second unknown. So B, find the velocity when the ball is 20 feet above the starting point. So B, pinapahanap sa atin si velocity. Okay, when the ball is 20 feet above the starting point. So when y is 20 feet, since that is above, so we will use positive 20. Okay? So, even without solving, since we know that after 1 second, it is 16 feet per second. Okay? So, and after 1 second, the ball is located at 32 feet above the object. So above the initial point. So ibig sabihin, when it is 20 feet, still the motion. So when it is 20 feet upward, okay, so or 20 feet above the starting point, so we can solve, let's say from this point. Okay, so when we consider this first point, okay, so let's say this one, so when y is equal to 20 feet, okay, so when y is equal to 20 feet, so pag sinubstitute lang natin yan dyan sa ating given, so makukuha naman agad natin. So when y is 20 feet, so with that, so when y is 20 feet, it can occur twice. So dalawang beses siyang pwedeng mag-occur sa ating problem. So let's say, ito yung ating 20 feet above our starting point or the initial point. Ito. Let's say this is your 20 feet. Okay? So this 20 feet may occur twice. So yung isa, when the motion is still upward. And when it reaches the maximum point, it will go downward. So at this point, this is the same 20 feet. So, diba? 20 feet din yan. Okay? So, another 20 feet. So, this is also 20 feet. Okay? This point is also 20 feet and it is also 20 feet above the initial point. So, meaning to say, gusto ko lang sabihin na dalawang beses pwedeng mag-occur yung 20 feet above the uh, initial point. One is when the motion is still going upward or yung ball natin is going upward and yung ang isa ay yung ball natin is pababa. Okay? So, dalawang beses yan pwedeng mag-occur. So, this is the first time, this is your second time or after reaching the maximum height. Ito before reaching the maximum height. Okay? So, napahanap sa atin the velocity of the ball when it is 20 feet above. Okay? So, we can use the formula. Second formula. So, we can use V square is equal to VO square minus 2GY. Okay? So, substituting. So, V square equal to VO square. So, that is 48 square minus 2 times G, which is 32. Then, Y natin is 20. So, V natin, so, di ba, makukuha natin dyan. And since this is being square or a quadratic equation, we will arrive with two possible answers. One is positive and the other velocity is negative kasi quadratic. So, dalawang roots yung makukuha natin. Substituting, that is 48 square minus 2 times 32 times 20. So, VO square minus 2GY square root. So, that is simply 32. So, we have it as 32 feet per second. So, as you can see, dalawa yung sagot natin. One is positive 32 and the other is negative 32 feet per second. Yung positive, nung unang beses na hit yung 20 feet above. Whereas yung negative, nung siya ay pababa na. Kasi at this point, pababa na yung ating motion. So, yun yung negative. Dito, positive. So, even the formula itself and yung ating figure, parehas na sinasabi. Okay? So, dalawa yung makukuha natin. And dalawa naman yung binigay sa atin ng ating equation. Okay? So, yung positive again, dun sa initial, nung unang beses nag-occur, nung first time. So, when the motion is upward. Yung kabila is when the motion is now going down. Okay? So, let's proceed. So, let's find yung letter C natin. So, sa letter C, find the maximum height reached and the time it is reached. So, maximum height. So, ibig sabihin, itong point na ito. Okay? So, the maximum height, so, from the word itself, so, maximum, so, that is the peak point. Ano? So, yung pinakamataas na point na pwedeng maabot ng ating ball upon throwing it upward. Okay? So, here is your maximum height. Siyempre, with respect, so, pwede mong kuhanin doon sa iyong initial position. So, maximum height. Okay? So, let's call this as H or our ating maximum height or capital letter H. So, the maximum height is the highest point or the peak point na pwedeng maabot ng ating object once that it is thrown. So, when it is thrown upward. So, yan yung kanyang maximum height. So, ano ba yung nangyayari dito? So, when the object, so let's say from this point is thrown upward, so as time goes by, so tataas yan until it reach the maximum height. And when it reach the maximum height, momentarily the object will stop. Okay? So the object will stop momentarily. Sobrang bilis lang. Then after stopping, bababa na siya. Okay? So it will go up momentarily. Pagdating niya sa maximum height, itigil siya ng kaunti doon. Then it will now go downward. So initially, it is going upward. Upon reaching the maximum height, it will go downward na. So, pababa na yung magiging motion ng ating object. So, with that, masosolve natin yung maximum height. Okay? And again, since the object upon reaching the maximum height will momentarily stop, we can say that the velocity, so tawagin natin v sub h, or the velocity at maximum height is equal to 0. Okay, so that is 0 feet per second. So, kasi the object will momentarily stop once it reached the maximum height. So, at maximum height, the object will be 0. Yung velocity ng object will be 0. Tinatanong sa atin is the maximum height reached and the time that it is reached. So, yung time to reach the maximum height, tawagin natin T sub h. So, yung from initial point up to the maximum height. So, that is our T sub h. Okay? So, in solving this, so letter C tayo. Okay? So, for letter C, to find the value of the maximum height, so since we do not have time, so hindi natin pwedeng gamitin sa equation 1 and equation 3. So, we'll be using equation 2. So, we have V square is equal to VO square minus 2GY. Okay? So, since we'll be considering maximum height, so tawagin natin at Y is equal to H. So, ibig sabihin, yung position natin is the maximum height. The velocity at maximum height is equal to 0. Okay? So, 0 yung ating magiging velocity. So, substitute lang natin. This will be 0 is equal to V sub O square minus 2GH. Okay? So, with that, masasolve natin si H. That is simply VO square divided by 2G. So, diba? Tatranspose lang, then divide. Okay? So, maximum height, meron tayong formula. So, substitute na lang natin. So, we have the value of VO. So, VO natin is 48. So, that is 48 being square divided by 2G. So, that is 2 times 32. Okay, and solving for the maximum height. The maximum height natin is, so that is 48 VO square over 2G. So, that is 2 times G, which is 32. Well, so that is 36. Therefore, the maximum height natin is 36 feet. Okay? So, tingnan natin kung posible ba na mag-issue 36 feet. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, so, di ba yung 20 feet mark at saka yung 32 feet mark, so, lumabas sa atin na positive pa sila. So, ibig sabihin, the maximum height will be above dun sa 32. So, para matingnan natin kung posible ba na yung maximum height natin ay 36 feet, so, tingnan natin yung time to reach the maximum height. At what time natin ma-reach after releasing the ball si maximum height. Okay, so yung isang pinapahanap sa atin. So, in time to reach the maximum height. So, since we already have the initial velocity, we can use this formula. V is equal to V sub O minus GT. Okay? So, when yung Y natin is maximum height, so velocity natin is 0, and yung time natin is V sub H, or yung time to reach the maximum height. So, this will be 0 is equal to V sub O minus G times time to reach the maximum height, and we can find the value of T sub H. So, T sub H natin, that is simply VO over G. Kasi meron naman tayong initial velocity. So, T sub H natin is equal to 48 divided by 32. So, makukuha natin yung time to reach the maximum height. that is 48 divided by 32 equals, so 3 halves or simply 1.5. Sabihin, after 1.5 seconds, the ball will reach the maximum height. So, balikan natin to. So, dito, 1.5 seconds, mararating niya si maximum height. And after 1.5 seconds, the motion will be downward. Pababa na. Kasi na-reach niya na at 1.5 seconds si maximum height. So, kaya, yung na-solve natin kanina, nung 1 second pa lang, yung ball natin is still going upward. And nung 4 seconds na, so as you can see, yung 4 second natin, that is above doon sa 1.5 seconds natin kanina. So, ibig sabihin, since yung time to reach maximum height ay 1.5 lang, so yung 4th second natin is pababa na. Okay? So, yun. Pwede natin siyang ma-solve doon si time to reach maximum height, which is the 1.5 seconds. Okay? So, let's analyze further. So, upon computation, na-solve natin that the time to reach the maximum height is simply 1.5 seconds. Now, since we are going to neglect air resistance, so hindi natin naka-consider yung resistance of the air, so the time to reach the maximum height from the initial point, so from this point going to the maximum height, will be equal from maximum height going to that same point. So, hanggang dito. Okay? So, the time to reach, so from this point, from the initial point, going to maximum height, that is 1.5 seconds. So, surely, from the maximum height downward, 1.5 seconds din yon. Or, parehas lang. Okay? So, dapat parehas lang yung ma-solve nating value. Okay? For T sub H. So, let's say from this point, going upward and from upward, pababa, parehas lang. So, paano natin siya masosolve? So, pwede nating maging reference is kanina ang ginamit nating initial point is from this point going upward to the maximum height. Or pwede naman from the maximum height going to the same point. Okay, pares lang yon. Kasi nga, we are going to neglect air resistance. So, let's try the second one, yung pababa. Okay? So, when we start at the maximum height, so ito, kung ito yung magiging reference natin, so yung any point below the maximum height, negative na yon. Diba? So, nasa ilalim siya ng ating initial point. So, having our maximum height as our initial point, so yung values na gagamitin natin for y will be negative. So, let's say we are going to use the formula, yung third equation. We have y is equal to VOT minus 1/2 GT square. So, let's say y natin is equal to h. Okay? So, yung VO natin is equal to V sub h or the velocity at the maximum height. Then, yung time natin is equal to P sub h. So, again, using this formula, since yung y natin is below the maximum height, nasa ilalim siya, so we will use negative. So, negative yung value na ating gagamitin. Therefore, yung negative natin dito, we will have negative, h natin is 36. We will have negative 36, VO natin is P sub h, which is 0. Then, times T, minus 1/2, then G, that is 32, then T square, that is T sub h being square. So, from this equation, makukuha natin si T sub h. So, T sub h natin, that is simply square root of, so, 2. Okay, tanggal na yung negative sign, that is 2 times 36 divided by 32. Then, just take the square root. So, T sub h natin is equal to Ano lang natin. That is 2 times 36 divided by 32 equals. So, yeah. Parehas pa din. T sub h natin is 1.5 seconds. So, tama pa din siya. Okay? Kasi nga, we are neglecting air resistance. So, let's say, from this point, going to the maximum height, and from maximum height pababa, parehas lang yon. So, pwedeng i-analyze mo from this point papunta sa maximum height or from maximum height papunta dun sa same point. Okay? So, pag kinonsider natin, let's say, tawagin natin from this point, okay, yung motion natin is pumunta sa maximum height, and upon reaching the maximum height, bumaba siya and it dropped at the same point. Okay? So, tawagin natin yung time na yun to be the time of flight. Okay? So, yung time of flight natin, ibig sabihin, at after what time, let's say na i-throw mo na yung ball and you will catch it. Okay? So, since we are going to neglect the air resistance, that will be equal sa twice the time to reach the maximum height. Why? Because since from this point, initial point, going to the maximum height is T sub h, and from maximum height pababa is another T sub h, we can say that the time of flight is twice ng T sub h. Okay? So, hanapin na lang din natin si time of flight or yung time na makakatch natin yung ball upon throwing it. So, after throwing it, so that is equal to 2 times T sub h. Okay? And the time of flight will be, so yung time of flight natin, 2 times 3 T sub h, so 2 times 1.5, that is equal to 3 seconds. Okay? So, yun yung time of flight. So, ibig sabihin, after 3 seconds, the ball will pass doon sa ating initial point. So, pakita natin. So, from this point, pataas, 1.5 second. From maximum height pababa, another 1.5 second. That's why, after 3 seconds, okay, after 3 seconds, yung value ng ating y will be negative. Kasi after 3 seconds, the ball is now going below ng ating initial point. So, di ba, ito yung ating initial point. Okay? So, we can look it that way. So, isa-isa. Let's say, so this is your ball. So, it will reach the maximum height after 1.5 seconds. So, ibig sabihin, after 1.5 seconds, yung ball natin nasa maximum height na. And the tendency of the ball is to go downward. And with that, we can say that after 1.5 seconds, the velocity will be negative. Why? Because the ball is now going downward. Kaya lahat ng values ng velocity natin beyond 1.5 should have the value of negative. Kaya nga yung na-solve natin kanina, when the time is 1 second, so wala pa siyang 1.5, the ball is going upward. Positive pa yung velocity. When the time is 4 seconds, the ball is now going downward. So negative. Kasi yung 4 second, lampas na siya sa 1.5. Okay? So, any time, any velocity after 1.5 second will be negative. Kasi, after 1.5 seconds, nasa maximum height na siya. And yung sunod ng mangyayari, bababa na yung bola. Then, from this point, so from the initial point, up to the maximum height, and maximum height going downward, that is the same T sub h. And when we call it as time of flight, so the time na mag-pass through yung ball, doon sa ating initial point, magpantay sila ng position, that is equal sa twice ng time to reach the maximum height. So, maximum height, so twice. So, 1.5, another 1.5, time of flight natin is 2 times 1.5, that is 3 seconds. Therefore, after 3 seconds, all the values of y na masosolve natin will be negative. Kasi nasa ilalim na siya ng ating initial point. Okay? And that will happen again after 3 seconds. That's why, nung 1 second pa lang siya, y natin is positive 32. Kasi yung maximum height niya naman is 36. So, hindi niya pa nare-reach si maximum height. But, after 3 seconds, okay, nag-pass through na yung ball natin dun sa initial position. That's why anytime after 3 seconds, yung value na ng ating y will be negative. Kasi surely, the ball will now be below the initial point. That's why after 4 seconds, so yung ating ball is now at negative 64 feet. Nasa ilalim na siya. So from this point, 1.5, 1.5, 3. So beyond 3, negative na yung makukuha natin na y. So we can analyze it that way. Okay? So we can interpret yung values na na-solve natin. So with that, pwede nating makita kung tama ba o mali yung ating analysis. So let's continue. Save problem number 3. So for problem number 3, a football is kicked vertically upward from the ground, and a student gazing out of the window sees it moving upward past him at 5 meter per second. So, kunyari, merong supernatural characteristic si student para ma-measure niya yung ball na dumaan sa kanya at 5 meter per second. So, the window is 10 meters above the ground. So, simply yung position ng ating student, that is 10 meters above the ground. How high does the ball go above the ground? So, ibig sabihin, yung maximum height na maaabot niya. How long does it take to go from a height of 10 meters to its highest point, and find its velocity and acceleration 0.5 seconds after it left the ground? Okay, so to start this one, let's draw the figure. So for problem number 3. Okay. Let's say may building. Ito. And ito yung ating ground. Yan. Then merong window. So a football is kicked vertically upward. So merong football dito. Kick vertically upward. So initial velocity natin, hindi natin alam. And the student gazing out of the window. So ito yung ating window. Student dito. At this point, the velocity na measure ng student at 5 meter per second. So, dito sa point na to. And this window is 10 meters. So, yung window natin, this one is 10 meters above the ground. Okay? So, yung layong ito. Yan. 10 meters daw yan. So, how high does the ball go above the ground? So, let's say, ito yung kanyang maximum height. Somewhere here. Okay? Ito yung maximum height natin. Okay? So, tinatanong sa atin yung maximum height. Yan. Pinapahanap sa atin si maximum height. So, how high does the ball go above the ground? So, again, yung velocity natin dito sa maximum height is equal to 0. So, how high does the ball go above the ground? So, solve muna natin yon for letter A. So, as you can see, wala pa tayong initial velocity. So, para ma-solve natin yung y using the second equation, since wala din naman tayong time, hindi natin magagamit yung third equation to solve for the maximum height. So, first things first, Hanapin muna natin si initial velocity. So, let's find first initial velocity. Okay, para mahanap natin yung height. So, considering, yung itong point na ito, yung hanggang 10 meters. So, let's say at y natin, since above the ground, yun yung reference natin. So, at y natin is positive 10 meters. Yung velocity natin dyan is 5 meter per second. Okay, and using the second equation, so that is v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy. Okay, meron tayong y, meron tayong v. Masasolve natin si vo. So from this equation, vo square is equal to v square plus 2gy. Tinranspose ko lang. Therefore, vo is equal to square root of v square plus 2gy. So, vo natin is equal to square root. Okay? So, square root of v, that is 5 square plus 2. G natin is 9.81. And y natin is 10 meters. So, we can solve for v sub o. So, yung v sub o natin, kuha lang tayo ng calcu. So, yung v sub o, so that is square root of 5 square plus 2g 9.81. Then y natin is 10. Equals, so that is 14.87. So, we have it as 14.87 meter per second. So, ilagay natin sa storage location A. Store lang natin to. So, let's shift store A. So, nandyan yung initial velocity. Since we already have the initial velocity, pwede na natin magamit yung equation 2 to find the maximum height. So, at maximum height, so y natin is equal to h. Therefore, the velocity at maximum height is equal to 0 meter per second. So, using equation 2, that is still v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy. So, magigito v sub h square is equal to vo square minus 2gh. And from this equation, we can find the value of h. So, this one is 0. So, magta-transpose lang, that is vo square all over 2g. Okay? So, that is vo square all over 2g. So, substitute lang natin. H natin, vo natin is yung nasa A, which is 14.8727 being square divided by 2g, which is 2 times 9.81. So, with that, makukuha na natin yung h, which is equal to, so yung nasa A natin, we'll call A square over 2g. So, 2 times 9.81 equals, so we have 11 point, so that is 11.2742 meters. Okay? So, yan yung ating value. So, store muna natin to sa B. Palagay ito sa B. So, yung maximum height natin is at 11.2742 meters. Okay? So, tingnan ulit natin yung figure. So, from this figure, ang ginawa natin, sinolve muna natin si initial velocity, then, kinuha natin si maximum height. Okay? So, kinuha muna natin yung initial velocity using this relationship, then bago natin itinaas. Or, so you can see, yung maximum height natin, h natin, pwede mo siyang sabihin, let's say, mula sa window hanggang sa maximum height. So, tawagin natin itong y sub w. Okay? So, mula sa window, papunta dun sa maximum height. So, pwede natin sabihin that h natin is equal to 10. So, di ba ito ay 10 meters. So, pwede mo sabihin that that is 10 plus y sub w. Okay? Since wala pa tayong y sub w, we can find the value of y sub w using this relationship. Okay? So, dito tayo titingin. Gagamitin natin initial velocity si v. Final velocity natin si v sub h. And we can use second equation. So, di ba sa second equation, v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy. So, in this case, v natin is v sub h square. V square natin is v. Ito. Minus 2g y sub w. So, from here, v sub h natin is 0. So, magigitong 0 is equal to 5 square minus 2 times 9.81 times y sub w. So, we can find for y sub w, so that is equal to 5 square divided by 2 times 9.81, and y sub w natin is, so that is 5 square divided by 2 times 9.81 equals, so that is 1.2742 meters. So, ilagay lang natin to sa C. Okay? Ilagay natin to sa C. So, C. And when you want to find the value of h, okay, so yung h natin, that is 10 plus y sub w. So, h natin, so 10 plus y sub w. So, yung c plus y sub w equals, that is the same, 11.2742 meters. So, as you can see, hindi natin kailangang hanapin yung initial velocity. Okay? Pwedeng ilipat-lipat natin yung initial and final. Okay? So, kaya importante na meron kang figure para makita natin at ma-analyze natin ng mas madali. Okay? So, next, so, pinapahanap sa atin for letter B. So, for letter B, how long does it take to go from a height of 10 meters to the highest point? So, ibig sabihin, from this height of 10 meters, okay, to the highest point. So, parang sinabi lang sa kanya, how long does it take to travel y sub w, or yung ating 1.27. So, using second equation, v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy, pwede natin siyang makuha. Okay? So, para dun sa letter B, pinapahanap yung, sabihin natin, pinapahanap dito ay P sub W. Okay? So, pinahanap si P sub W. So, using the second equation, that is V square is equal to VO square minus 2GY. Ay, sorry. Okay, hindi yan. So, ang gagamitin natin ay yung first equation. Okay? So, using the first equation, so we have V is equal to VO minus GT. Okay? So, let's use the first equation. So, V natin, that is V sub H is equal to VO, yun yung V, minus G times T. So, sabihin natin T sub W. So, with that, we can solve for T sub W, since this is 0, that is equal to V divided by G. Okay? So, we can find T sub W. That is V. So, yung V natin is 5. Divide lang natin siya ng 9.81. So that is simply 0.05 ay 0.50. So T sub W natin. So T sub W natin is 0.5096 seconds. Okay? So let's say you want to use the third equation. Okay? So let's say you want to find the value of T sub W using the third equation, that is Y is equal to VOT minus 1/2 GT square. So yung Y natin dito is Y sub W. So Y sub W is equal to V times T, which is unknown, minus 1/2 G, which is 9.81, times T square. Okay? So, Y sub W natin, meron tayong value, which is 1.2742 is equal to V, which is 5, times T, which is unknown, minus 1/2 times 9.81 times T square. And as you can see, we form a quadratic equation. So, ipatas lang natin, that is negative 1/2 times 9.81 T square plus 5T. Then, minus 1.2742 is equal to 0. Okay? So, using quadratic equation, makukuha natin dito si T sub W. So, yung T sub W natin, quadratic tayo, mode 5, 3. So, mode 5, 3. So, that is negative 1/2. So, negative 0.5 times 9.81. So, para sa T sub W square. Then, plus 5T. Then, negative. Yung 1.2742 natin ay nakastore sa C. Okay? Equals. So, yan yung value ng ating X. So, as you can see, parehas lang. Kasi, perfect square yung ating nakuha. So, T sub W natin, that is 0.5096 seconds. Parehas lang. So, kahit gamitin natin yung Y sub W na na-solve natin kanina, or let's use the values na meron tayo using V sub O na gagamitin natin is 5, masasolve pa din natin. Okay? So, that is for letter B. Balang ulit natin. Then, let's have letter C. Find its velocity and acceleration 0.5 seconds after it left the ground. Okay? So, 0.5 seconds after it left the ground. So, dito na lang. So, letter C, pinapahanap lang si velocity and acceleration. So, obviously, yung acceleration, we do not need to solve for that kasi yung acceleration naman natin, we are using the constant value. So, that is 9.81. So, instead, velocity na lang yung isolve natin. So, surely, yung acceleration natin dyan, that will be 9.81 meter per second square. Okay? So, yan na yan sa acceleration. So, yung velocity naman natin, so, find the velocity after 0.5 seconds. So, solve lang natin yan. So, direct substitution. So, we can use V is equal to VO minus GT. So, bakit V sub O yung using this equation? So, since ang reference natin is from the ground, so we'll be using this V sub O, which is sinolve natin kanina. So, from this equation, V is equal to VO. V sub O natin is 14.8727 minus G, which is 9.81. Yung V sub O, na-solve na natin kanina. Okay, so that is negative 9.81 times T, which is 0.5. So, V natin is equal to, so that is yung nasa A. Yan. So, yung alpha A natin minus 9.81. So, that is your G times 0.5 seconds. Equals, so that is simply 9.9677 meter per second. And as you can see, positive pa yung value niya, meaning to say yung ball is simply going upward. So, tama lang naman. Since from this point to this point ay 0.5 seconds na. So, surely, the time from the initial point to the final point or to the maximum height is greater than 0.5. And 0.5 pa lang ng yung ating na-solve, na yung 0.5 lang na time yung binigay sa atin. So, surely, pataas pa yung ating motion. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's have number 4. A stone is thrown straight upward with a speed of 20 meters per second. It is caught on its way down at a point 5 meters above the ground. So how fast was it going when it was caught? And how long did the trip take? Okay, so let's have the figure for number 4. Okay, so let's consider na yung stone ay nagsimula sa ground. Okay? Kasi wala namang sinabi kung saan siya nag-start. So let's consider the stone initially at the ground. So yung initial velocity niya is upward. So at 20 meter per second. So again, yung path na i-take ng stone. So it will go upward until its maximum height. Okay? So again, after reaching the maximum height, so again, same path dapat siya. Pero since, para lang makita natin sa figure, ihiwalay ko lang ng konti. Okay? So, on its way down, it is caught, okay, at 5 meters above the ground. So, hindi siya dumiretso sa ground. Sinalo siya at a point 5 meters above the ground. So, yan yung magiging figure natin. Meron tayong stone sa ground, thrown upward until the maximum height. Then, from the maximum height pababa, it is caught 5 meters above the ground. So, how fast was it going? So, yung velocity dito when it is caught. And yung tinatanong sa atin is the total time of flight. Okay? So, anay muna natin yung letter A. So, to solve for this one, okay, since so this 5 meter, okay, so yung 5 meter natin again will happen twice. So, dalawang beses siya mag-o-occur. So, yung unang beses na mangyayari si 5 meter, so at this point, surely ito, 5 meter din. Ayan, this is also 5 meters. Ayan, so, before it reached the maximum height, and after reaching the maximum height, nung pababa na, kinuha ulit natin for another 5 meters. So, with that, on its way down. Okay? So pag kinuha natin yung when we so in solving this one, so pag sinolve natin to, so since we have the initial velocity and we are finding this v as our final velocity. Then uh, yung on its way down. Okay? So pag ginamit natin si second equation, that yung velocity na ma-solve natin ay negative. So to be safe, hanapin muna natin yung maximum height niya. Okay? So yung mismong value, yung maximum height. So consider natin yung maximum height and the time to reach the maximum height. So let's find first these values. So using we know again that the velocity at the maximum height is 0. So that is 0 meter per second. Using the second equation, we have v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy. So at y is equal to the maximum height. Therefore, yung velocity natin dyan is v sub h, which is 0 meter per second. So, substituting, magiging v sub h square is equal to vo square minus 2gh, and v sub h natin is equal to 0. And we can find the value of h to be vo square divided by 2g. So, meron naman tayong values niyan. So, vo natin, we have it as 20 being squared divided by 2 times 9.81. So we can find the value of h, the maximum height natin, to be, so that is 20 square, 20 square divided by 2g. So 2 times 9.81 equals, so that is 20.3873. So yan yung ating maximum height. So that is 20.3873 meters. So ilagay ko siya sa A. Store A. Okay, so yung maximum height natin is 20.3873. So let's say from maximum height to this point, so let's call this one as y. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin, since the ball is caught on its way down, so at this point, so pwede nating sabihin that from maximum height pababa, yun yung hinahanap sa atin. Okay? So from maximum height pababa, yung velocity niya from the maximum height going downward. So when we do that, so when we find the velocity, so kailangan muna nating malaman yung value ni y. And from this figure, h natin is equal to y plus 5. So we can use that equation. So h natin is equal to y plus 5. Therefore, y natin is equal to h minus 5. And we have the value of h to be 20.3873. So minus 5. So yung value natin, y natin is 15.3873 meters. So, store lang natin to sa B. So, that is yung nasa A minus 5 equals, so that is 15. So, store natin to sa B. Nailang natin to sa B. And using this value, okay, so we can find the value of velocity using v is equal v squared equation 2 vo squared minus 2gy. Okay? So So using this equation, we know that VO na gagamitin natin dito is equal to VH. So that is equal to 0 meter per second. Then, yung Y natin is equal to negative 15.3873 meter. Why negative? Because considering the maximum height to be the initial point, so yung final point natin is below the initial point. That's why negative yung Y na ating gagamitin. So substituting, magiging V square is equal to VH square minus 2G times negative 15.3873, and this one is 0. So V natin is equal to square root of negative positive na. So ilagay lang natin negative 2 times G, which is 9.81, times negative 15.3873. So square root lang ito. We can find the value of the velocity. So, ano lang natin? So, that is simply square root of negative. So, negative 2 times G, which is 9.81, times negative, yung nakalagay sa B, equals, so that is 17.3752. So, velocity natin dito is positive, negative, kasi square root yan. 17.3752 meter per second. Since it is caught on its way down, so since sabi sa problem, it is caught on its way down, yung velocity na i-consider natin should be yung negative. So that is negative 17.3752 meter per second. So, dapat yung negative yung ating kuhanin na time. Kuhanin na velocity. Okay? So, yan yung makukuha nating value. So, considering from maximum height going downward. Or, so, for the second solution, so we can consider, so yung sinasabi natin kanina, that from this point to this point, since the motion natin is going upward pa lang, okay, we can use this 5 meter mark. Okay? So, dalawang velocity yung makukuha natin. So, we can say that the velocity at this point, so on its way up, will be equal sa velocity on its way down. Kasi parehas naman na 5 meter parehas na above 5 meter mark yung ating value. Okay? So, let's consider this initial velocity up to the 5 meter mark. Okay? So, again, since that is simply above pa din naman. So, using the second equation, V square is equal to VO square minus 2GY. So, yung Y natin is equal to 5. So, yung VO natin is 20. So, V natin is equal to square root of VO natin is 20 square minus 2 times 9.81 times 5. Okay? So, velocity natin dito will be, so, it is equal to square root of VO 20 square minus 2G times 9.81 times 5. So, square root. Again, positive, negative. So, positive, negative. 17.3752. Parehas meter per second. And again, since on its way down, yung velocity na i-consider natin is yung negative. 17.3752 meter per second. Because we are considering yung on its way down. So, parehas lang. Mas mabilis pag ginamit natin yung second solution. Okay? So, let's find the time to take yung time of flight natin or yung how long did the trip take. So, going back sa ating figure, so yung trip natin naging ganito. So, from the ground, going to the maximum height, then from maximum height papunta dito sa 5-meter mark. So, ibig sabihin, pwede natin sabihin na time to reach. So, hanapin natin si time to reach the maximum height. Then, kuhanin natin si t sub y. Yung from maximum height going dun sa ating 5-meter mark. And that is your time of flight. Okay? So, pag ginawa natin yon, yung for letter B, so hanapin muna natin si time of flight. So, di ba, time of flight, pwede natin sabihin that that is equal to time to reach the maximum height plus t sub y. So, time to reach the maximum height plus t sub y, yun yung ating total time of flight. Okay? So, using the maximum height muna, hanapin muna natin si t sub h. So, sa t sub h, so we can use the first equation, di ba? V is equal to VO minus GT. So, to find the value of t sub h, so V natin is equal to 0. This is VO, which is 20. Okay? Minus G natin na 9.81. Then this is T sub H. So with that, makukuha natin si T sub H, that is equal to 20 divided by 9.81. So yung T sub H natin is 20. Divide lang natin ng 9.81 equals, so that is 2.0387. So 2.0387 seconds. So ilagay natin kanyari sa x. So that is the time to reach the maximum height. So store lang natin to sa x. Yan. Then let's find the value of t sub y. So t sub y, so t sub y natin, so di ba makukuha natin yun from maximum height to v. Okay, so from maximum height going to v, yung pababa na. So from the maximum height going to this point, dun sa 5-meter mark or dun sa v, which is yung na-travel natin is yung y. So with that, using the formula, V is equal to VO minus, pwede din to, V is equal to VO minus GT. So, G times T sub Y. So, yung V natin, pwede natin kuhanin yung V natin mismo. Okay, yung na-solve natin kanina, V sub O natin will be 0 kasi from the maximum height. So, with that, we can find the value of T sub Y. So, T sub y natin is equal to V all over, as you can see, negative G. Okay? So, di ba yung V natin dito is equal to negative 17. So, isa-substitute lang natin yan. That is equal to negative 17.3752 divided by G, which is naka-negative pa. So, negative 9.81. So, T sub y natin is equal to, so substitute lang. So, yung velocity natin kanina, so, hindi ata ito naka-store. Tingnan natin sa B. Wala siya. Wala. So, hindi naka-store pa yung velocity. So, i-recompute natin. So, that is square root of, so gamitin ko na lang tong equation na to. That is square root of negative 2 times 9.81 times negative 15 point something. So, nakalagay siya sa B. So, negative B equals, ito yung ating velocity. So, ilagay ko lang to sa, let's say, C. Ilagay ko to sa C. Yan. Tingnan ko lang to dito na C. Okay? So, this value, so, negative ng C divided by negative 9.81 equals, so ito yung ating T sub y which is 1.77. So T sub y natin is 1.7711. So 1.7711 seconds. So yan yung ating T sub y. So with that, we can find the value of time of flight. So, di ba, time of flight natin, sabi natin kanina is T sub h plus T sub y. So, ito, ilagay lang natin to sa y. So, lagay lang natin, shift store y. Then, yung ating T sub h is equal to time of flight is T sub h plus T sub y. So, add lang natin sila. Okay, therefore, yung time of flight natin is simply 3.8099. So that is 3.8099 seconds. So yan yung ating time of flight. Okay? So, balikan lang natin yung figure. That is from the initial point going to the maximum height and maximum height going downward. Okay? Then, let's have solution 2. Dito na lang. So, for the second solution, para mahanap natin si time of flight, okay? So, again, let's consider this point. So, from this point, going to this point, okay? And on its way down. So, since we have the initial velocity and the 5-meter mark, yung ating y, we can use the third equation. So, di ba y is equal to dot minus 1/2 gt squared. So, yung y natin, let's use it as 5 meters. Then, VO natin, yung given, that is 20 meter per second. So, substitute lang natin. So, y, that is 5 is equal to VO, that is 20t minus 1/2 times 9.81 times t squared. So, nag-form tayo ng quadratic equation. So, that is equal to negative 1/2 times 9.81 t squared, then plus 20t is equal to transpose, that is negative 5. So, lipat lang natin is equal to 0. So, yung makukuha natin dyan is na time. So, quadratic. So, let's use mode 5-3. So, that is negative 1/2. Okay. That is negative 1/2, 0.5 times 9.81. Then, positive 20t. Then, negative 5. Was. So, we have t natin is 3.8099. So, kagaya nung kanina. 99 seconds. So, dalawa yung nakuha natin. Ito. Tsaka, yung isang time natin is quadratic kasi yan. So, dalawa yung roots. So, that is time natin is 0.2675 seconds. So, since parehas positive, parehas tama yung value. Kaya lang, depende sa sitwasyon. Yung this 3.8099, yung mas malaki, since parehas positive yun na time yan, parehas tama yan. So, itong 3.8099 is from this point upon reaching the maximum height and on its way down. Whereas, this 0.2675 is from this point hanggang dun lang sa part na ito. Okay, dun sa unang 5-meter mark. So, this 0.2675, ibig sabihin lang nito, the ball will reach the 5-meter mark after 2.675 seconds for the first time. So, yung before reaching the maximum height, marireach niya si 5-meter mark after 0.2675 seconds. And after reaching the maximum height on its way down, so pag kinatch siya at 5 meter mark. So, yung time of flight natin dito is itong mas malaki, which is 3.8099. So, parehas lang. So, mas mabilis yung ating solution 2. So, let's have our last problem. A ballast bag is dropped from a balloon that is 300 meters above the ground and rising at 13 meters per second. For the bag, so yung bag, find the maximum height it reached, its position and velocity 5 seconds after it was released, and the time at which it hits the ground. Okay, so let's draw the figure. So for problem number 5. So a ballast bag is dropped from a balloon that is 300 meters above the ground. So initially, okay, so let's say from this point, so ito yung ating ground. Yan. So 300 meters above the ground. Okay. Ito yun, 300 meters above the ground. Meron tayo ditong balloon. So box na lang para sa ating balloon. Okay, so ito yung ating balloon, which is rising. So the balloon is rising above the ground. So yung velocity ng balloon natin is equal to 13 meter per second. So going upward. So from there, ballast bag is dropped from the balloon. Okay? So yung pinapahanap sa atin is the maximum height reached. So let's say meron tayong ball dito. Yan. Initially, V sub O. Okay? So, let's explain first this part. So, if you start with the bag stationary at 300 meter, then drop it, the bag is going to fall straight down. Okay? So, let's say, stationary, walang balloon. So, you have just the ball, okay? And you drop it from the 300 meter height. This 300 meter height will surely be the maximum height. So, ito na yung magiging maximum height natin if the balloon is stationary. Or ibig sabihin, hindi gumagalaw yung ating balloon. However, we are not starting the balloon to be stationary. Okay, as stated in the problem, the balloon is rising at a rate of 13 meter per second. Therefore, this velocity of this balloon will be accumulated by the ball, and it will be the initial velocity of the ball. Okay, so hindi siya drop lamang. So magmumukha siyang thrown upward. Since the balloon is rising, therefore, the velocity of the ball will also rise initially. Okay, since the balloon is moving. So, since the balloon is rising at 13 meters per second, the ball will initially rise at 13 meters per second velocity also. So, maa-accumulate niya yung velocity ng balloon. So, yung initial velocity of the ball will be equal sa velocity ng pagtaas ng ating balloon. Okay? So, again, if the balloon is stationary, hindi siya gumagalaw, meaning to say, this ball will fall directly. So, para siyang drop lamang. So, with that, this 300 meter will already be the maximum height. However, in this situation, it is not the scenario because the balloon is moving. Therefore, the ball will initially rise up bago pa siya bumaba. Okay? Since the balloon is rising, the ball initially will rise up din. So, tataas siya initially. So, let's say, tataas muna siya ng konti. Okay? And let's say, after reaching this point, this maximum height here, bago pa siya bababa. Okay? So, kakaroon muna siya ng kaunti pang itataas. So, this 300 meter will not be its maximum height. Okay, unlike dun sa problem number 1 natin na drop lamang yung ating ball from a stationary position. However, in this case, yung position natin is not stationary. So, tumataas yung balloon at a rate of 13 meter per second. So, initially, yan din yung magiging rate of, yung magiging velocity ng ating ball. So, the velocity of the ball will be 13 meter per second at the same dun sa ating balloon, it is moving upward. So, tataas muna siya ng konti bago siya bababa. Okay? So, ito yung ating ngayong maximum height. So, ito yung ating maximum height, h, na hinahanap. Okay? So, with this one, so since yung ating reference is the starting position ng ating balloon, which is the 300 meter mark, so from this point, pwedeng dito natin kuhanin papunta dito sa kanyang maximum height. So in this case, the velocity here is 0 meter per second. Okay? So let's call this as y. Okay? Yung itataas pa ng ating balloon. Tawagin natin y sub h. Okay? So yung itataas pa ng ng ating ball. And tawagin natin yung time to reach here from this point going to the maximum height as t sub h. So, these values, wala pa tayo niyan. So, with that, mahanap natin si h as y sub h plus 300 meters. So, hanapin muna natin si y sub h. So, using this as our initial velocity, so v sub o is equal to 13 meter per second. Okay? So, at y is equal to h. Okay? Yung y natin is y sub h, yung maximum height. The velocity there is v sub h, which is 0 meter per second. And using the second equation, we have v square is equal to vo square minus 2gy. So we can have it as vh square is equal to vo square minus 2gh. And from this equation, v sub h natin is 0 and we can find the value of h. So kanina pa natin ginagamit, that is vo square divided by 2g. Substituting, h natin is vo natin, that is equal to 13 meter per second being square divided by 2g. So, sorry, this is not h, this is y sub h. So, this is y sub h. Okay, yung height natin is y sub h. So, masosolve natin dito si y sub h. Kuhanin lang natin yung calculate natin. Okay, so we have 13 square divided by 2g. So 2 times 9.81 equals, so we have 8.6136. So we have it as 8.6136 meters. So i-store lang natin siya sa A. So tawag natin to, should store A. So we have y sub h and we can find the maximum height yung pinapahanap sa atin sa problem, that is 300 plus y sub h. So h natin is simply 308.6136 meters. So yan yung ating maximum height. So plus lang natin ang 300 equals, so ito yung ating maximum height. Lagay natin sa x. So lagay ko lang to sa x. Then find its position and velocity 5 seconds after it was released. So after 5 seconds, so sabi lang, at t is equal to 5 seconds, pinapahanap lang sa atin si y and velocity. So substitute lang natin. So using the first equation, v is equal to vo minus gt. So v natin is equal to vo, that is 13 minus 9.81 times 5. So yung velocity natin is, so that is 13 minus 9.81 times 5 equals, so that is negative 36.05 meter per second. So, ibig sabihin lang yan, after 5 seconds, the ball is going downward na. Pababa na yung ating ball. Okay? Kasi negative yung na-solve nating value of the velocity. So, let's find the value of y from this equation. So, y, para ma-solve natin si y, so to find the value of y, so we can use the third equation, y is equal to VOT minus 1 half GT square. Okay? So, substitute lang natin dyan. Y natin is VO, that is 13 times T, which is 5, minus 1 half, 0.5 na lang, times G, which is 9.81, times 5 square. So, masosolve natin si Y. So, y natin is 13 times 5, 13 times 5, minus 1 half, g, that is 9.81, t square, that is 5 square, equals, so negative, that is negative 57.625 meters. So, ibig sabihin, yung y natin, okay, so paano ang ibig sabihin yan? Pakita natin sa figure. So, di ba dito, we use the position of the balloon, yung initial position niya, which is at 300 meter above the ground, yun yung initial position ni balloon. So, we use it as our first point. So, meaning to say, kung ito yung ating first point and we have the value after 5 seconds to be negative 57.625, that happens to be below the initial point. Okay? The negative sign denoted dito sa ating computation. This negative 57 here. So, yung negative 57, ibig sabihin nun, nasa ilalim nung initial point natin. So, with that, here is ito yung ating 57.625 meters. So, pwede mong sabihin that this, the position of the ball is at 57.625 meters below the balloon. Okay? Or, para mas concrete, since the balloon is moving, mahirap siyang gamitin as our reference. So, pwede nating sabihin na yung reference natin is yung ground. So, this is 300 minus 57.625. Okay? So, to solve this, gawin lang natin ay 300 minus 57.625. 0.625. So, ibig sabihin lang yan, that is 242.375. So, here is your 242.375 meters. So, with that, we can say that after 5 seconds, so, okay, you can say, so yung y natin is negative 57.625. So, we can say, this is 57.625 meters below. Okay, so below the initial position of the balloon. So, nasa ilalim siya nung initial position of the balloon. Or, you can say it that yung y natin is, yung location ng ball is 242.375 meters. So, para mas concrete yung ating representation, ibig sabihin hindi siya nagbabago. So, gamitin natin yung ground as our reference. So, that is 242.375 meters above the ground. Okay? So, pwedeng yan yung ating maging sagot. Okay? Para doon sa problem number, unknown number 2, yung sa letter B natin. Then, the time at which it hits the ground. So, tinatanong yung time it reach the ground. So, tawagin natin to as the time of flight. So, pinapahanap sa atin si time of flight. So, paano ba mag-o-occur si time of flight? So, di ba, from this point, yung initial position of the ball inside the balloon. So, dinarap siya but the balloon is moving. So, parang itinrow natin yung ball. So, yung ball will go up until it reach the maximum height. So, from its initial position, this is 8 meters. Or from the ground, this is 308 meters. So, ibig sabihin, the ball will reach the 308 meter mark above the ground, then it will fall down. So, aakyat muna siya sa 300 meter or aakyat siya sa maximum height bago siya bumaba. Therefore, yung time of flight natin, pwede nating sabihin from the initial position up to T sub h, up to the maximum height, that is your T sub h. Then, from maximum height going to the ground. So, tawagin natin tong part na to, yung from maximum height going to the ground. So, tawagin natin siya as T sub g. Okay, yung T sub h ay going sa maximum height. Then, yung T sub g natin is from maximum height going downward. Then, T sub f is our time of flight, which is the sum of the time to reach the maximum height and from maximum height going to the ground. Okay, so let's form the equation. T sub f is equal to T sub h plus T sub g. So, let's find first T sub h. So, solving T sub h. So, from this point, going to the maximum height. So, using the initial first equation, V natin is equal to VO minus GT. So, let's have it as V sub h. This is 13 minus 9.81 and this one is T sub h, considering the maximum height. Therefore, V sub h natin is 0. Therefore, T sub h natin is 13 divided by 9.81. So, T sub h natin is, pinutin lang natin dito, that is 13 divided by 9.81 equals, so yung value natin is 1.32. So that is 1.3251. So in time to reach the maximum height from the initial position of the balloon. So we have it as 1.3251 seconds. So store lang natin to sa, let's store this at storage location B. So lagay ko lang to sa B. C, T sub H. Store natin to sa B, shift store B. So, yung from the initial position up to the maximum height. Then, hanapin natin si T sub G. So, from maximum height going downward. Okay? So, with that, hindi natin alam ano yung magiging velocity niya when it reach the ground. So, pwedeng isolve natin or pwede din naman na hindi na. Okay? So, okay, so when we use the third equation, so kahit hindi na natin gamitin, using the third equation, so we have y is equal to VOT minus 1/2 GT square. Okay, using this equation, so we will consider from maximum height going to the ground. So lagay lang natin dito, from maximum height to ground. So, ito na yung magiging analysis natin. From the maximum height going to the ground. So, maximum height to ground. So, ibig sabihin, v sub h natin, yun yung magiging initial velocity natin. Yung h natin, yung y natin ay magiging h. So, magiging siyang h is equal to vo. Vo natin is v sub h kasi yun yung initial natin. Then, t natin, yun yung hinahanap, that is t sub g minus 1/2 multiplied by 9.81 times, this one is t sub g being square. And we know that h, since we are going to use the maximum height, so we are using the maximum height as our initial point. So kung nandito yung initial point natin, h is directly below the maximum height. So nasa baba siya ng maximum height. Therefore, pag kinonsider natin to as our initial velocity, we need to consider this as negative because nasa ilalim siya ng initial point. So nasa ilalim ng initial point. So negative h. So yung h natin is 308. So that is negative 308.6136 is equal to, this part is 0. Okay, kasi b sub h natin is 0. So we have it as 0 minus 1/2 or 0.5 times 9.81 times t sub g squared. So we can find the value of t sub g. That is square root of negative 308.6136 divided by negative 1/2 times 9.81. Okay? So t sub g natin is equal to from maximum height to ground. So that is square root of yung 308 nakastore sa x. Then yung 0.5. So this is negative x. Okay, this is 0.5 negative. So negative 0.5 times 9.81 square root. So we have 7.9320. So time to hit the ground is 7.9320 seconds. So store ko lang to sa C. So from maximum height to ground, that is 7.9320. Lagay ko lang to sa C. And to solve for the time of flight, so we have it as t sub h plus t sub g. So yung time of flight natin is 0 to maximum height, that is t sub h. From maximum height to ground, that is t sub g. So that is t sub h plus t sub g. So substituting, time of flight natin is t sub h natin yung 1.3251 and t sub g natin ay 7.9320. Therefore, t sub f, or yung total time of flight, or the time at which it hits the ground, will be, so yung nasa B, plus yung nasa C. That is 9.2572 seconds. So that is your time of flight. Ibig sabihin, 9.2572 seconds after the ball is released from the balloon that rises at a rate of 13 meter per second, the ball will hit the ballast bag will hit the ground. Okay, so after its release. So, yan yung magiging sagot natin. Ano natin dito? Okay, so let's go back to our figure. So, dito sa ating figure, so di ba from this point, so this is 300 meters. So, itong ating initial point. Ito lang natin. So, this is 300 meters. Then, di ba yung initial velocity natin nandito? That is equal to 13 meter per second. Yung velocity natin is going upward. So, positive pa yung velocity natin. Then, it will reach the maximum height, then bababa. Okay? So, pwede din naman na makuha natin to directly using this as our value for y. Okay? So, yung 300 meters. So, for the second solution, using the third equation, that is y is equal to VOT minus 1/2 GT square. Okay? Now, we can go directly. So, yung y natin, since ito yung ating initial point, and again, this is below. So, nasa ilalim. Nasa ilalim siya ng ating initial point. So, therefore, y natin will be negative. So, that is negative 300 is equal to VO. VO natin is 13 meter per second times t. That is your time of flight. Minus 1/2. Gamitin ko na lang 8.5. G natin is 9.81. Then this is time of flight being square. So, form lang tayo ng quadratic equation. So, we have negative 0.5 times 9.81. This is time of flight being square. Then, plus 13 times time of flight, then transpose, plus 300 is equal to 0. And we form a quadratic equation. Okay, let's use mode 5, 3. So, we have negative 1/2, 0.5 times 9.81. Then, 13, yun yung velocity natin. Then, let's use negative 300 equals, so, positive 300 pala ito. So, this is positive 300. And we will arrive with the value of the time of flight. So, in time of flight natin, we have it as 9.2572. 9.2572 seconds. So, parehas na parehas nung na-solve natin kanina. So, mas mabilis using quadratic equation. Pag tinignan natin yung second root, that is negative. So, we do not have a negative value for time. So, we will consider yung positive lamang natin, which is 9.2572. So, yan yung magiging value natin. So, since we are looking for the time, at all times, the time natin ay positive. Wala naman tayong negative time. Okay? So, yan yung tamang sagot. So, sa halip na kuhanin pa natin si time to reach the maximum height, then from maximum height to the ground, we can go directly. Okay? So, as you can see, kahit anong formula yung gamitin natin, any combination of the formula, we will surely arrive with the same answer. Okay? So, it is always best to draw the problem first, then analyze the equation. At all times, do not forget the representations that we have, that when the velocity is positive, it denotes that the object is moving upward. When it is negative, the object is moving downward. When y is positive, it is above the initial point. When y is negative, it is below the initial point. So, that should be considered at all times. So, hindi pwedeng hindi. So, pag nagkamali tayo ng values doon, so mali yung sign natin, ibig sabihin, mali yung makukuha nating sagot. So, we should always note these principles. Okay? So, this is for the our topic, which is freely falling bodies. So, it is the motion along the vertical. Okay? So, that's it for our topic, the freely falling bodies, or the motion along the vertical.